And action. Welcome to the Action Podcast. It is episode 13. And this week we have a special guest. We have Nelissa Somocierra, who is a storyboard artist for Disney Animation Studios, Disney Features.
Welcome.
And of course,
hi guys.
Of course, we have my brother, Peter Escarcega.
Hello.
Fresh off his film that just got released, Paws of Fury, which we'll be talking about today, which is why we brought in a fellow animation player. And then we'll also be talking about the book adaptation of Where the Crawdads Sing, which was a bestseller turned into a movie that also came out this weekend. And then finally, my brother's favorite film, Jane Austen's Persuasion, which is on Netflix. So
yeah,
we got a action reviews.
Hey, maybe instead we can just talk about Thor: Love and Thunder one more time.
Yeah, we'll talk about Thor: Love and Thunder.
Just in case anybody missed it, we can talk about it one more time.
Well, spoiler alert, already this weekend, Thor is still number one at the box office. So it's still
outrageous.
Wow, I haven't watched it. I have not watched it.
I think crazy enough too, Top Gun is still in the top 5 too. If I read the numbers correctly, I think Top Gun is still made like another 10 to 15 million. It's insane.
Melissa, if you haven't seen,
Top Gun's so good.
If you haven't seen Love and Thunder, I mean, go and see it. Even if you're not an MCU fan, this is one of the funnier movies I think I've ever seen. It's hilarious. It's really well done. The music with Guns N' Roses like throughout, and it's such a great film. I'm not a Thor fan, but this movie was top notch. I loved it.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, I'm not an MCU fan, but if you say so, I'm definitely gonna watch it. Yeah, for sure.
I even said it in the podcast we reviewed it. I think it's an actual just comedy. Like it's that funny and that like packed with jokes. I mean, for 75% of the film, it's literally like layered with jokes after jokes after jokes. Like every scene has multiple jokes. And I want to say, like you don't need to see all of them in order to get most of these jokes because they're pretty apparent with or without the backstory.
Okay, cool.
So good.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, you'll pick up on the subtle jokes that are throughout. It's it doesn't take a rocket scientist.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna like call you guys up and be like, okay, this is what I thought.
Nice.
Fun.
All right, well, let's get back on track here. It's like we're reviewing Thor again, but we'll talk about Paws of Fury, which again is the new animation film released by Paramount. It went through several productions, which Pete will get to tell us some of these stories because he was brought on toward the middle of the process, right, of this film.
The second half of the process, I was brought on to help finish the film, basically.
Yeah,
it went through several iterations early on, and I think there were some funding issues. I'm not really quite privy to it. That's just my assumption. And then when they brought me on, it was full steam ahead. And the studio that produced it was Anaventure, and the animation studio that actually created what you see on screen is Cinecide out of Montreal. Right. And everyone just worked really, really hard on this film. The tough aspect of this film when we made it was that when I was brought on was virtually a week before lockdown happened for the pandemic. And it was like one of those situations where it was like, well, shoot, now what do we do? And then everyone around the world that worked on this film just logged into Zoom and logged into whatever program they were working on. And we just created this film. And it was a little unprecedented based on all my years in animation, because there's always studios, there's always like an in-house place, but this was a total remote job. And yeah, I mean, we're quite proud of it.
Okay, so Nelissa, go ahead. Give us your review of Positive.
I mean, okay, once again, I'm going to reiterate that this is my first podcast. So, I mean, thank you guys for having me on.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but is Paws of Fury paying homage to Blazing Saddles? Is that true?
Yeah. That is very true. It was originally called Blazing Samurai, and it was basically a play off of Blazing Saddles, and I think that there was some concern over the sort of racist undertones of the comedy, which was Blazing Saddles. So that's all debatable whether it's actually racist or not, but we won't get into that now. But Mel Brooks was on the project. He signed off on the project from the beginning and even is in it. He plays the Shogun. So yeah, absolutely.
By the way, his voice sounded amazing. I was like,
So good.
Because
So
he's what,
good.
95?
Yeah, he's
Wow.
up there. And it was crazy. Like,
I'm like, how
during
he
the
sounded so
pandemic-
young.
Yeah. During the pandemic, nobody would go to studios, like professional recording studios to record. So we had to basically order and ship out to each actor's
Yeah.
houses, like little kits where they can kind of set up. And Mel Brooks, of course, was in a big giant room that was echoey and was horrible to work with. Same with Michael Cera. Michael Cera had just moved into like an apartment in New York, which was all hardwood floors and didn't have his furniture yet. So, I mean, he literally had, we had him put down like towels and blankets underneath his feet and to cover himself with
Oh my
blankets and
gosh.
towels.
A homemade VO
kind of muffle the sound and make it sound actually like kind of professional. And it was the same with Sam Jackson. The only person who did it in a studio because he didn't care was Ricky Gervais. He was just like, he's like, it's all right, I'll just do it. I'll just do it in the studio. It's just all right. I don't care.
Killer impression, Pete. Wow, our fans are
That's
intrigued.
killer for sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're still mailing those kits to actors and actresses and having them voice act at home. I think it's still not in the studio yet.
It really depends on the actor. If they're older, they usually tend to not want to go in. If they're younger, you might get a shot at doing a professional studio.
Dude, I would totally prefer a studio over trying to do it at my
I
house or
know.
something like that. I mean, there's so much things that can go wrong. Like you're saying, like, oh, the sound's off or this. Whereas, and again, the studio, it's like all those technicians are doing everything for you. They're checking the levels there, and you're just walking in. I mean, this is why voice acting has become such a big business for actors, is because it's the cushiest gig in the world. You max work 4 hours a day because of contracts. And again, you're just going in, you're reading your lines.
Yes, but you get a minimum. So even if you go in and record 2 lines, you're still getting that minimum deal. So
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not so bad a gig. I mean, if
No,
you've got
it's
the
the
voice and the
greatest.
talent for it, what a job. But that's one of the kind of the hurdles that I think that the people that did the sound in post was Skywalker for Paws of Fury. And I remember we sent them everything and they were going through it and they were just like, a lot of this is just
is Skywalker considered the #1 audio company, or is that Todd AO?
I think hands down Skywalker's.
I mean, Todd AO's up there.
Possibly, but Skywalker is that's the recognition as well as the reputation and the talent. I mean, Skywalker has everyone who's great.
They invented a lot of that too, because Dolby doesn't actually mix, right? They just do their.
No, they do mix there as well. I don't believe that they mix. No, they mixed this one as well.
Okay.
But they were able to do so many amazing, innovative things to these sort of slapdash home recordings during this film, and they were able to make it,
like
super great quality. I mean,
Mel Brooks sounded so amazing.
He really did.
I was surprised because I'm like, dude, he's not young. Like, because you can tell the difference in like James Earl Jones, right? Who has such a powerful, iconic voice. But you can tell now, like, he doesn't sound the same. Now, I thought they did better in Obi-Wan with his voice versus what was it? Was it Rogue One? I think he talks. And in Rogue One, he sounded old, and I wish they would have done more to his voice. But in Obi-Wan, he sounded good again. I think they tweaked it more. But like I said, Mel Brooks sounded 65 years old. He did not sound old at all. And he, because sometimes, again, when you're dealing with an older actor, it's very slower paced, or the expressions aren't there. But man, he was. I was just so surprised how well he was delivering his lines, and uh, Samuel L. Jackson, I think, this is his wheelhouse in terms of. I mean, he's got such a great and iconic voice, and
Yeah.
I hope he does more animation, because one, it's just his reputation, right? Like he's always just the badass and like kind of the no nonsense guy, and so he has a very comical voice, just because like his voice itself can kick your ass. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the reputation Samuel Jackson has.
Well, I'm happy to share some of the stories from like the actual recording sessions, because there's actually quite a few that are really good. But I really want to hear what your thoughts on the film were, and get in your review, positive or negative.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the idea of an underdog trying to make it in a cat society. Ironic characters thrown into ironic situations are my bread and butter. I'm drawn to stories like that. My mind wanted to categorize this with the Shreks and Chicken Runs of the world, right? It was like a more self-deprecating humor, versus like Pixar's four-dimensional reach. It was more like irreverent, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I thought the movie was fun. I thought it was a slapstick humor, meta jokes, breaking the fourth wall. I think what separates Hank's martial arts journey from, like, let's say, Po from Kung Fu Pandas is definitely the tone and presentation. Would you?
I haven't seen Kung Fu Panda, so Pete might be able to talk.
Oh, I see.
I took a break from animation films for like a gap after working in the industry for a bit. I stopped seeing animation films because I was kind of over it, but I'm back into animation now because of this.
Yeah.
I wasn't jaded, just I don't know. I think I was just saturated. For me, I was just oversaturated, because it was just like a new animation film was coming out like every month for a while, and it was just like and for, again, this is my opinion. This is, and you're talking like 10 years ago, not recent. But it was just like over and over and over again. But yeah, anyways, get back to your
It's tough now because animation comes out, it feels like once a week on streaming platforms. There's a new series, there's a new couple of films. It's just like there's a lot of animation out there, which is great for the industry.
Yeah, there is.
Yes.
And I would also add, though, that I think the difference is there's more. Obviously it's all begins and ends with Disney, right? It started with Disney, right? And then Pixar came into the business. Ultimately, Disney bought Pixar. So then it became Disney and Pixar. Those were the two animation companies. And then DreamWorks came along, and DreamWorks Animation built a solid reputation of making great animation. And now almost every major studio wants to be in that game.
Well, Skydance is in terms of animation is an up and comer, but you also have studios like Sony, Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network. Like these studios have been around forever, and
Warner Brothers, Warner Brothers is getting back in
animation,
because Warner Brothers was Looney Tunes. They were number 2 to Disney for a long while, right? And they got out of the game for some reason, and feature wise. They did, I guess, Space Jam, but they weren't really producing animation films on a consistent basis. But yeah, they're now back in the game, just like every other major studio. But like I said, I think you're seeing just overall, it's kind of like how TV, has become an equal to film now in terms of production. Animation has also equaled that, because it's, especially with families, like in streaming, like kids will just watch this over and over and over again. So it's so much easier to get a traction with your films, and so better talent are now part of these productions. Because we were talking about it, Pete, too. Back in the day, animation films, you didn't know who the actors were, right? Like on Aladdin, besides Robin Williams, name another actor on that, right? I guess the Full House guy, he was like a star, right? And he was like the biggest name ever for an animation film. But Pinocchio,
Gilbert Gottfried. Come on, the parrot.
No, what I'm saying, Aladdin was like the first movie to actually have like people we knew of their voices, right? Before that, name anybody in Pinocchio or Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. Like, it wasn't like, James Cagney was, dwarf.
No, prior to Robin Williams in Aladdin, I think the most well-known person ever was probably like Mel Blanc, maybe.
100%. I mean, he was the voice actor. Yeah.
He was every character for the Looney Tunes, basically. So, you're right in that sense. But
now, actors want these jobs.
That was the good thing about the pandemic for the animation industry, anyways, that you could do this job anywhere. And so, animation was able to continue moving forward during this period of time. And I know a lot of live action people that were really struggling during the pandemic. And we were very, at least for me, I was very fortunate to at least be on a film like this, because we were working on this during the pandemic. So I was grateful to have been a part of a project that could continue moving forward while a lot of other people weren't working. So it was, this movie will always be near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, for sure. Big part of your life.
I want to hear all the tea, Pete. I want to hear, all the mishaps. And I know we can't talk about it. But,
no, we will. We'll get into that. Did you want to add anything else, or do you want me to give my my review here?
Yeah, I will add a few more thoughts. I thought that there were a lot of meta jokes that went over kids' heads and they were geared more towards the adults. Although I did feel like the movie essentially was geared more towards kids than full families.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that being said, I did feel, to me, and this is my only critique, and this is just me, this is probably not everyone's opinion, but I do feel the villain in the story, to me, wasn't as strong and believable as I'd like him to be. I think Ricky Gervais is a great actor. I think it could have just been his story arc. So I think
I wouldn't argue with that.
Yeah, it was just his objective was unclear to me at the beginning, and then what helped was the sidekick explaining it. But besides that, I really love like the dark, sharp, sarcastic humor. I love those flashbacks; like they were stunning, beautiful. I wish actually that those styles were incorporated in the main storyline. I wish that.
Interesting.
But yeah,
I actually agree
really
with that too.
fun.
I agree with that too.
Those really stood out to me. I don't want another like style of like Spider-Verse, because I think that's kind of, it was like inspiration from, but they were stunning. They really stood out to me. But yeah, a lot of good stuff. And essentially those are really my thoughts. But I enjoyed it.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah, I guess. We'll see.
Do you have kids?
I don't have kids.
You do not have kids. Okay.
No.
But just being in animation and being in this field, I love to hear both sides. I love to hear people who are in the industry. I love to hear people who have kids, but I'm really fascinated to hear about people who don't have kids, like someone like Paul.
Yeah. So Pete, I also don't have kids. Thank you, Paul. Ask me a personal question. No, I don't have kids. Thank you.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah. Right. I don't think this world needs more Pauls.
No, we're
but I actually agree a lot with what Nelissa says. I thought it was an enjoyable film. I didn't think it was perfect in terms of a story, but I thought it was a solid B in terms of like it hit its points, it hit the beats. I agree with the villain aspect. Yeah, you probably could have pushed that stronger. I liked Ricky Gervais. I thought he did a good job. But again, more on the character side, push just, and this is what, what we always talk about, Pete, we got to push our characters more. Like if they're too nonchalant or not, or too bland, they lose the effectiveness. And so, if your character is too likable sometimes and not enough assholey, then, that could take away from the hate that you have, right? Like you're talking about how much you hate Ben Foster in some of his roles. You're like, if I ever see him, like, and that's why he's so great. Like he takes whatever that role and he's able to just go even further because he's so good at some of these negative.
Ben Foster's incredible.
Him and Alpha Dog, like, oh my goodness, he's so good. And so I think Ricky Gervais sometimes almost is too likable as the villain. So, I think you need to be maybe a little bit more villainous to where, you're almost like you hate him a little bit more.
Sure.
Something I don't have it 100% because I've obviously only seen this once. But I agree with the ultimate. Something need to be harder.
I think what you're saying, Paul, is with Ricky Gervais's character. What was his name again? I'm sorry, Pete. I just saw it last night, so I'm still trying to remember the names.
He's Ikachu.
Ikachu.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that.
I think what you feel is missing, and this is just my opinion, is like I think he had no personal tie to the town being destroyed. It was just, I want the town to be destroyed, no real reason, which can like actually aid what is like the tone of the story, which is more like slapstick. But I think if you can compare it to something like Shrek, where you have Farquaad and like, you know, he had very personal reasons and it was almost believable. So if that was here, I think it would have been like a home run.
Yeah.
But besides that, yeah, it was great.
That's interesting.
And that's why Shrek is considered the greatest too, right?
I love Shrek.
For me, like Ricky Gervais, like when, like on a personal level, I wanted more Ricky Gervais in this movie, just because if he just came on screen and said hello to anybody, I'm already laughing, because he's just one of these people, and just the voice by himself. But if you see his face as well, I'm always laughing. And so listening to take after take of Ricky Gervais doing this movie was absolutely hilarious. So I did personally wish that he was more involved in the story.
I wish he was more Ricky Gervais, like you're saying, like actually Ricky Gervais. Like what made him so great on that, what was it, the Golden Globe speech?
Oh, the clip, every Golden Globes.
What
made him so great was that he didn't give a fuck, right? And he's just like, I'm going to say this. I don't care if you like me or not. Like, I'm going to say what I have to say, and you take it for what it's worth. And and he's funny, but still an asshole, right? And I think it needed to be more on that line. And I think that would have really elevated the film to another level. Because I think he could have been
around for the very end of the credits when he had that little bit at the very end after the credits. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I saw it.
I was just waiting. I was just waiting for your name, and then I left.
And then you
and the story artist names.
And then you got the hell out of there. No, I get it.
I was trying to take a picture of your name, Pete, and because it was so dark, I didn't anticipate it. And then it just like, that was actually from Pete. Pete gave me his.
That was me.
I tried to take it myself, and it took too long to expose. And then it was already the next screen by the time it actually snapped. I was like, damn it. There goes my.
No, it was great. So that last little bit, if you ever go and see it again, which you should, because it's an amazing film. Godfather, Paws of Fury, Forrest Gump. It's right up there with all the top films ever. But if you stay through the credits, there's a little tiny sequence where a little tiny shot where Ricky Gervais is imprisoned. He's all in chains, and the guards open up the door and they look in the little thing, and he's sitting there and he goes, well, at least I don't have to do the sequel. And then that's the end. But the original take, this was something that he completely improvised, which, I mean, I literally laughed for like 2 days afterwards, because during those recording sessions with Ricky Gervais, like he was so personable, and he's like, hey, why don't we try this? And what if I say this here? And
it's so good.
He would just let me try a couple things, and he would try a few things. And then that line originally he's like, we were trying to think of like, what's a great ending for this character? And he goes, well, if I'm imprisoned and somebody looks in at me, what if I go, well, at least I don't have to do the fucking sequel. And so, but then we bleeped out the fucking. It was hilarious. Like, it was hilarious without the bleep, but then with the bleep, it made it even more funny.
Oh, the bleep.
Yeah.
But then there were test audiences that didn't quite agree with it. Parents that didn't think that it was quite appropriate for a kid's film, which I understand completely. But man, it was one of those moments where I just wish, because it came like right
after a parent, curses out their kids. Like, it's
man, he's just
like, right?
Damn hypocrites.
At least I don't have to do the fucking sequel. You know what I mean? Just in that.
No, that would have been, dude. That would have been tone. To me, that would be great. And look, I'm not a guy that I don't cuss in front of children and all that, but at the same time, I also understand art forms. You know what I mean? Yeah, like you, goodness sakes, you make me cringe sometimes how you talk around your kids. But like, this is where again, art. It's people act, especially certain parents act like kids don't hear certain things, or they don't speak to themselves. But humor is humor, and a good joke is a good joke. And you know, if you teach your kids properly, like you could say whatever you want to them, and they'll know whether it's right or wrong, right? Like, so I
And
would think,
spoiler, kids hear everything that you say, even if you think that you're being quiet, they hear everything, because you know my daughter will repeat stuff that I'm like, where were you? I didn't say that in front of you. She's like, no, I heard.
Yeah. So my whole point
I heard that.
is just make the best joke. Like that's our job as artists.
I agree.
Just make the best joke and don't worry so much about this, because if you get tepid too, it's like, again, that's like the death of comedy too. You get too tepid. But I hearing that joke would have been, that scene would have been 1,000 times better, especially because it's at the end. Like, and that's the only time you do it. Perfect. To me, that's
perfect.
Just the perfect amount. But again,
it would have been great.
Yeah.
But actually,
it was.
No, Pete, I just want to bounce off that. I think it's interesting that you said that, you know, parents thought that line was too inappropriate, because I felt like throughout the movie, the humor straddled.
Was great.
It was on the cusp of, like, you know, adult humor. Let's have fun with the kids. So I mean, I thought that was the whole movie. So it's interesting to think that wasn't. Yeah.
You know, but I think this is you know, no offense to American parents, but I mean, American parents versus parents everywhere else. It's like what we view as inappropriate for children to see. You know, we can make the most violent animated movie in the world, and that's okay for some reason. But if we bleep out an F word, then all of a sudden we have to take it out, because it's kids can't possibly, no child has ever heard such a word in their lives. It's like, I don't know. Well, that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, we grew up with like Tom and Jerry, and like I said, like Looney Tunes, like
so violent.
What's the homeboy with the shotgun? The bald
Elmer Fudd.
Elmer Fudd, right? I mean, he's going around shooting a rabbit with a shotgun, right?
In the face.
Again, nobody's learning from Elmer Fudd. Like, you don't.
Elmer Fudd shoots Daffy Duck, the bill's in the back of his head because he just got shot in the face.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I do think it's okay, because none of us grew up to be
murdered. The F word.
Nobody grew up to be murderers because of Elmer Fudd. You know what I mean? It's like we knew it was so silly, and we were smart enough to understand that. And I think, again,
right.
I think I definitely don't want to get in this conversation, but I agree with Pete with the point of that, like, parents are actually they're less adept at realizing what kids pick up and what they don't, and they also don't have a good grasp of understanding that kids can also, just like we can, decipher whether something's right or wrong, and it's not that hard.
Or not funny.
Yeah, or funny, not funny. I mean, like,
it's about respecting your audience and you letting them work for their food.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll say this: we haven't really talked about him yet. I liked Michael Cera. I thought he was really good for this role. His voice is, I mean, I'm trying to think of who else I would cast. He was perfect. I don't really have an idea. He just has that very, I mean, it was that super bad kind of voice, you know, like he had that same kind of, like, you know, innocence, but still funny, but then, you know, unassuring. And, you know, I thought he did an excellent job. And again, Samuel Jackson, I thought crushed it with Ricky Gervais. Some of the other voices, I forgot that they were even like the voices until I read the credits. I was like, oh, that's right, that's that guy. Oh, that's right, that's that guy. It was a really good guy.
Gabriel Iglesias.
Yeah.
Like, it was
there. Yeah. And then Asif Manvi was in there. Jimon was in there. He was good.
That's how you pronounce it? I was wondering.
Jimon. Yeah. And then George Takei. I mean,
by the way, he is one of my favorite actors, and has been in. I mean, Blood Diamond is one of my favorite films.
Blood Diamond, Amistad, the Marvel films. I mean, this guy crushes every time.
Yeah,
he's great. He was sumo, and he did a great job, and he was great because, like, he really got into each line that he did. Like, he really focused and got into it. And then he delivered the line, and it was perfect. Like, he crushed.
Love to work with that guy one day. I think he
was incredible. Michael Cera, you know, the voice that you hear that he was doing, that's him. Like, he's a great actor, but he's just a sweet sweet guy and was
Yeah.
very easy to work with, and was really fun and was open to suggestion and wanted to try things. He's like, I don't have an agenda today. Let's just do what we can to make this
I love
as
that.
funny as possible. He was the coolest guy, and I already told you about Ricky. He's super great. Sam Jackson, I call him Sam because we're super tight. But Samuel L. Jackson, he was very interesting to work with because, let's face it, Samuel L. Jackson he's like the pinnacle of amazing actors. And if I'm gonna make a movie and I hire Sam Jackson, I'm not really gonna give him any direction because he kind of comes in and crushes and knows what he's doing.
Oh, we had this conversation.
There was this one moment, and this is like the funniest thing ever. There was this one moment where the director said, hey, what if we just tried it like this real fast? And Sam Jackson, just in this normal kind of voice, he's like, oh, you want me to do it the bad acting way? Okay, fine. and that was it.
Yes.
And then he did it. And then he did the line and, just crushed, of course. Like, I mean, he's so good. Like, each line that he delivers, each take that he delivers, you could use any of them and it would be successful. I mean, he kills. He's so good.
But that's, and you mentioned it, like, again, and I'm a big believer of this, and this is kind of my big directorial style. Like, yes, I have a vision and this is what I want, but I'm also, when I'm in the casting process and when I'm choosing these actors to be this part, I'm also expecting them to become this role. Like Doug Ellen talks about this on the Victory podcast. Like, he chose each of his characters, Jeremy Piven, he's Ari Gold, right? But then I also expect Jeremy Piven to bring something else to that role. And, they do it through like back and forth. They do it actually, apparently they don't riff a lot on Victory, but they work with each other before. Like, he writes the script and then they give it to him and then they'll bounce back ideas like, oh, blah, 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 blah. So every director has kind of a different style, but I always come from the school of collaboration, and, actors are actors for a reason. They bring their talent and their personalities, more importantly, to the table. Because when you write a character, you can have your best, you can write perfectly on a paper, but at the end of the day, another guy has to perform that, and it's still a part of him. So, if he doesn't bring his own, what's oh my goodness, I forgot the word, eccentricities. They're going to bring their own eccentricities to the role. What are you laughing at, you asshole?
I was just gonna let you float there for a while.
I
was sitting and laughing.
By the way, I came up with it way faster than I thought I was. I didn't think I was gonna get it.
I was just waiting.
But once you hire the extra, like you're saying, like Michael Cera, right? You can write Michael Cera, but he's still gonna do it better than you can write it. And so hopefully he's gonna bring his own side. Again, Samuel Jackson to me is like the epitome of a guy. Like, I can write Samuel Jackson, but guess what, dude, I wrote you a script, but dude, you do you. Like, I hired you for a reason.
You take these actors for them. I mean, Samuel Jackson and Jeremy Piven, you don't mold them into something. You take them for them. They are the character, right? That's what you hire them for, to make the character. So anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean,
that's exactly what I was going to sort of reiterate, was the fact that, every character, which we were very fortunate of in this film, each one of them came in very prepared and they knew what their character was supposed to be. But Samuel L. Jackson is on a different level. Like, he comes into a project. He's not going to sign into a project if he's not going to crush. So he just came into this project and was like, here's what I'm going to do. And he read the lines and he's like, okay, we're good. And then, like, people in the background are like, no, are we good? Are we sure? Are we sure we're good? And then we're like, yeah, he's Sam Jackson. Of course we're good. Let's just go. This is incredible. This is fantastic. So good. One of my favorite parts of the film was the voice recording, because it was a party every day.
Honestly, I was going to say,
wow, I'm jealous.
If there's one aspect I would love to get involved in, would be those sessions, because it just seems like such an awesome collaborative process. And it's, the difference between voice acting versus, live acting is obviously like, one of the downfalls of, when you're on a set is you do multiple takes, and sometimes that can take away from, do it. And then you have to change the lighting, and then, just for one shot, it could take an hour just to switch. Right. And so sometimes you can lose momentum, especially if it's like a 12 or 14-hour day. But with voice acting, it's so compressed. And again, you don't have to worry about all the exterior stuff. It's just, let's just get the best perform. Yeah, it's just performing. And, that's definitely an awesome aspect of animation films, which is why they're so witty, and every line and every joke is much more playing out versus a regular script, which is, a little bit more haphazard, I guess.
So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, this is a movie that you should go and see, especially with your kids. It's great for families. It's great for adults. Even if you don't have kids, I think you would enjoy yourself. Like, there's a lot of great humor in it, and it's a fun adventure. And I'm really curious to hear in your comments below what you think about this film.
Yeah, and so I would say, Pete, too, here'd be my full, especially comparing to a lot of the other animation films that came out. So I always like to use comparisons as opposed to just putting Paws of Fury on an island. I agree with you. I think it was an enjoyable experience. I think it's definitely worthwhile. If you have kids, you have a family, this is definitely worth going to the theater. I thought the audience that I was with, there was definitely laughter, and it seemed like everybody enjoyed it. It does have an A- cinema score, which means
A-.
Yeah, A-. So audiences are liking it. The critics, I don't know what their score was, but the cinema score, which I think is more important than critics, is A-. So that's good. I think of all the films that have come out recently in terms of animation, I think probably Minions is probably my favorite. And mainly just because I really love the Minion characters. To me, they're so clever and unique. I think it's hard to beat them.
It's tough to compete against the Minions.
Yeah, I would probably put this number 2 or number 3 in terms of best animation films of this 2022. I liked it more. I liked it more than Turning Red. I liked it more than what was the other one? Bad Guys. Yeah, I liked it more than Bad Guys. Bad Guys, I love the concept of Bad Guys. I wanted more, I guess. I really love the concept. I think kind of the same thing we're talking about. And I think this film probably keep pushing more. Like, that's what made Shrek so good was, and obviously you're dealing with Mike Myers, who's a genius, and Eddie Murphy. Come on. But I just think you got to push the envelope more on some of these to really harness the humor of your talent and just keep pushing further. So I wanted, in this film, I wanted more Samuel L. Jackson, like more of him, more Ricky Gervais, but more, like almost more R-rated, man. I want to see, because Shrek is not like super G-rated, you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of insinuations. And I think a lot of these films need to understand. I mean, we were talking about Ferris Bueller the other day, right? Like, how many jokes, even Top Gun, how many jokes went over our head? And it's like, you live life between your legs, Mav. Okay, cool. Like, I don't know what that means. Like, it just,
as a kid, you don't remember. But even Turning Red, which I thought was a phenomenal film. My kids sing those songs all day, and my daughter has no idea what the movie's actually about, because it's just like completely over her head.
That threw me off.
No clue.
That threw me off. I think despite that, I think I probably would have liked it more, but it threw me off. I'm like, whoa. Am I watching movie about a girl going through a period? Like, what?
If you had to make a movie about that topic,
right?
They crushed it. They made
100%
a family film that was incredible. That had great music and had great acting and great everything, and it was a great story about that subject. And then majority of people don't even know it's about that subject.
I love the style too. That I do. I will say, Turning Red probably had the best style of all these films.
I loved Turning Red.
I love the style. I thought it was very creative. And again, the animation itself in Turning Red, it probably has the best animation. Oh, I forgot about Lightyear.
And Paws of Fury.
No. I'm saying I'd put Lightyear under. Lightyear wasn't that funny. Like, it was more watching like an action film.
Yeah, it's like watching Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely geared more towards adults.
Yeah.
I think.
I enjoyed it. I just wish I just wish it was funnier. But again, not that's a small critique of it. Overall, I thought it was Lightyear is really good. But I like Paws of Fury. Like I said, I'd probably put it 2, 3. I think Paws of Fury, Lightyear, and they're probably all like number 2, 3.
I love the A- crowd scoring. That makes me feel great.
Yeah,
Like critics, whatever. I mean, they're gonna, what I think about people like Roger Ebert and that website already. But to hear that people come out of it and they enjoyed themselves. I mean, that's what makes it all worth it, guys.
Yeah, just for the kids, just being able to learn these.
Yeah, and my daughter, she would watch the animatics with me, and like while we're reviewing him, and she's just like, "Oh my god, I can't wait for this movie to come out!" And
she hasn't seen it yet, right?
No, she hasn't seen it yet, and that's gonna be the best when I'm gonna take her.
Wait, they can't watch it in Italy or no? We'll cut this part, by the way.
Yeah, no, my family's in Italy right now. It should be coming out beginning of August, so they might be able to see it in Italy. But
that's right.
It'll be in Italian though.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is I do think. I mean, here's what you're going to ultimately hope for is that this film crushes it in the China. I mean, not on lack of a better word.
Yeah.
But internationally, I think this is going to do a lot better than domestic for sure.
Yeah, that's what you're hoping for because again, with such a low budget, you don't need it to crush. And I think too. I think Paws of Fury in terms of production, and we can go into this, Pete, and you can maybe talk more about this. But I think this has a classic case of sometimes when you hear a movie has so much trouble, I think it affects people's perception of it. Because perception is not always reality, right? And so when people hear, "Oh, this was made in 2017, it's just getting released now," again, I think audiences are smarter now. They know, okay, maybe there's something wrong with it. Why should I go see this movie? I think audiences are way more in tune now, and that hurts Solo.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that because, I mean, of the people that I've ever talked to about this film, I would say 2 or 3 people actually would say, "Oh, that one from back in 2000 or whatever." You know what I mean? Like nobody knows about the backstory of this movie. I don't think that has any sort of relevance to whether or not people are going to.
I think there are people that know about the backstory. Again, I use
some, but
Solo.
We're talking majority.
No, majority, no, of course not. But I would say again, to me, this is very similar to Solo. I think it's got a very similar journey with Solo, which is like, again, you just hear some of the back chatter, and it's like, okay, well, is this going to affect the actual product? I don't think it did. So, in all fairness, I don't think it did. But sometimes, my whole point is sometimes audiences will not initially give it a chance because of anything negative they hear. They won't necessarily give it a chance. And so, like Solo, a lot of people ripped Solo, and I thought Solo was solid. I don't think it could have been as good as it could have been, but I still thought it was a very, very solid film, and I enjoyed it. Like I've watched it many times. Like I think it works.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm gonna pivot here, and I'm gonna say I really liked Emiko. I love that character. She really took me by surprise, and I was rooting for her. I don't know what drew me to her.
Can I tell you a story?
Is that
Michelle
Yeoh?
About her? She this was a little girl. Her name was Kylie, and I think she did
this. Yeah.
The girl who played Emiko here, and she did. I think she did a couple of plays in New York. This was her. I think her first feature. It's one of those. And introducing, Kylie, and this girl was the cutest and sweetest little thing that you've ever seen in your life.
Her voice,
but her voice is adorable. But it wasn't until later on, like eventually, originally, the the Emiko character at the end was not going to say something like, "Well, it's not going to matter because I'm going to be the Shogun someday," right? Like that really sort of empowering, amazing sort of ending to that little girl. It was only because of audience reactions early on to her voice and her character, where people were saying, no, we need more Emiko. We need more of this little girl. Like, she's so inspiring and she's incredible. And there's so much potential for this little girl. And we brought her back in for another session and she just crushed out these lines. What a strong little girl. And she was amazing.
That was a strong character.
She was the unsung sort of hero of this film. Like, people love Emiko. They love her.
No,
for obvious reasons. Obvious reasons. She's really adorable.
She was like the morale of the main character, right? Like
she was the badass
angel on the shoulder. Yeah.
Right from the beginning, she was the one. She was the only one that wanted to stand in there and fight, even if nobody else would. Even if the shogun ran off because he was scared, she was the first one to pick up that sword and like I'm ready. Then the mom would like take her away, and she was the one that helped Hank. She didn't have any sort of discrimination or anything, and then she's the big hero at the end.
You know who she
reminded me of? I wanted more of her. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, is it, totally. She reminded me of Haley Steinfeld in True Grit, where you just have this very young female character and she's just punking, all these older male characters, and she's outwitting them, and she's just so stubborn in a good way. Like, she's just so headstrong. That's the word I was looking for.
She reminds me very much of my daughter, she still will want to do her hair and wear a dress, but she plays with a lot of boys and doesn't let them push her around like for a second. Nice. She's like, I can take you all day. You want to play football? Yeah. I'll tackle the shit out of you. If you want to play baseball, I'm going to crush. You know what I mean? Like, that's,
I hope as an uncle, she says, I'll tackle the shit out of you.
Kylie's my unofficial daughter.
Nice.
I wanted to say that it was really good choice for the movie to have her be in such distress at the end when they had that climactic scene, because there was a lot more emotional ties to her, like, in danger. And like, bouncing off that idea, I feel like I love that the whole movie was about this main character trying to be more like a cat, but in the end, what saved the town was to be more like a dog and dig. Like, that was great.
That was good writing. Yeah, that was good writing.
That was great.
Yeah, and I think the other aspect too, I just totally lost.
By the way, written by Ed Stone and Nate Hopper, two very incredible writers, who just made this the funniest movie ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just want to say they're great.
I lost my thought.
I just saw Ed on Sunday. It was there was the screening at Paramount Studios for the Paws of Fury, and I got to see the team again, and Ed Stone was one of those guys that I saw, and he's cool, super cool, great writer.
We also want to note to our audience here who did not get an invite to this premiere. Pete, if you want to mention who did not get a +1 to help to go support my brother on this. No, other way, guy. I'm to your left. Yeah, here you go.
Sorry, pal.
I was highly disappointed. I'm like, oh, cool, we're going to the premiere. And he's like, yeah, no.
I'm like, what do you mean, we white men? Isn't that? I
was like, you can't make a couple calls. I was like, Ari Gold got me an extra ticket.
I made plenty of calls, and everyone said, Paul? No.
Yeah, no, we're not going to bring that guy in.
We're not going to bring him. Just a couple more things about a couple of people that worked on this film that are very near and dear to my heart. One of them is Rob Minkoff, of course, who's the director. The other director, Mark Coetzee, is phenomenal. And these are two guys that really understand the world of storytelling and animation. Of course, Rob Minkoff directed the original Lion King, as well as movies like Peabody and Sherman and The Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy. And Mark Coetzee has been like a staple in the storyboard artist world, just like our friend here, Nelissa. These are two really amazing people that just brought to life this incredible story, and were able to really shape things, and they were really a joy to work with. And last person is Johnny Pearl. Johnny Pearl was basically anything that you ever needed. He was the glue that kept this whole production together from top to bottom, executive down to a runner on the show. Johnny Pearl, you're amazing.
I love it. I love giving shout outs to some of the guys that don't always get the bigger billing. what we try and highlight here on the Action Podcast. So our next film that we're going to review is the New York Times bestseller Where the Crawdads Sing. And this was the book had a lot of high rankings, especially on a female audience. And so, my brother and I, we wanted to watch the film, but then we also want to get perspectives from other people, especially women that read the book, because, a book doesn't become successful by accident, right? Like there's typically reasons. So we want to make sure we get different perspectives. And so I'll give you my opinion first, because the audience already knows Pete's going to have a negative take probably on this. But ultimately, I thought I was very interested in the story. I thought it was an interesting premise. And I thought going into this was maybe like a Time to Kill, which is one of the great kind of book adaptations, takes place in the South. I don't remember what time period it was, but I feel like it was a similar time period. And I really enjoyed the movie about 75% of the way through. I think I'm going to have a hot take here. And a lot of people aren't going to agree with this, but the fact is I'm right. So one of the biggest problems that films deal with is source material versus writing for a film, writing for a movie. So one of my favorite, and one of the practices I started doing when I knew a movie was going to be a big time book, I would read the book first and then watch the film. Did not do that on this one. Didn't have time to read Crawdads, but one of the first films I did this with was Gone Girl. I knew this film was coming out. This film had a lot of hype to it, and then the book was like a number one bestseller. So I wanted to read the book and then see how they adapted it, because again, to our audience, it's not, when you have a book, you don't put everything in a film because it just doesn't work. There's a lot of excess details in books that you can have, because in a book, like most people read books, they'll read it like before they go to bed, or maybe in the morning or on a lunch break, but they're looking at it 1 hour at a time. A movie, you sit down for a 2-3 hour period and you consume everything once. So if it starts to drag, what do? You change, you walk out, you not pay attention. And so
you get angry.
You get angry. Films are edited versions of books. So with that being said, I think where this film did not succeed was they stayed almost too true to the source, because I think as a book, the ending works. The ending's probably fine. But as a movie, I felt it was too anticlimactic by the time we got this so much information for it. And I don't want to give away spoilers, because I know a lot of people are still want to maybe go see this, but there was just so much good content that they left out. And timing wise, when you're writing a story, it needs to come at a certain time period to lead into your conclusion in the climax. And this is where, if I was directing this, I would have made the decision to veer from the book and say, hey, look, I don't care about my book audience. I care about making a great film, because if I make a great film, it's going to have longer lasting legs than if I stay true to the source material. And I think this is what the production team need to do here, was focus on the film and not the book. And I've talked to a couple different people, a couple friends that read the book. Even my mom read the book, and a lot of people loved kind of the same perspective I had. They loved a majority of it, really loved a majority of it. And then they felt kind of the ending was whatever. And I felt the film pretty much did the same thing. And everybody that's in this business knows the ending is so important, because that's your lasting effect on it. You could, again, if you ace 75% of it and then your ending's like whatever, you walk away from the movie like, eh. And then that's what you tell your friends. That's what you tell other people. And unfortunately, I think this film is going to suffer because of that, because they did not dominate the ending, and they could have. It was
just imagine if the ending of The Sixth Sense wasn't good, then nobody would ever talk about how incredible that movie actually was.
Yep.
Go ahead, keep going. And then
I use a Time to Kill. A Time to Kill, that was made 30 years ago, right? Like late 90s, 20 years ago. how we
Set in the 50s, 60s.
yeah, that's one of Samuel Jackson's most iconic roles, iconic lines, and we remember
one of the breakout roles of his career.
Yeah, and it was such a great film. And again, I don't care if it was true to source or not. The fact is, the ending was excellent, and they could have set up the similar thing. I think they needed to make these characters. You needed to believe that every character was guilty in this film. They did not do that. Again, kind of the same thing we're talking about with all these films. Go more hard right or hard left, but don't stay in the middle, because if you stay in the middle, that's where you lose. And these characters need to be harder. I loved I don't know who the actress is. I forgot to look her name up, but I thought she did a great job. But I need to see more, not from her, but from the writing. I need more from the writing.
She's incredible.
Yeah, performance was great, but I needed to know
Daisy Edgar Jones.
Daisy
Right?
Edgar
That's
Jones.
her name?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I need to see more. I need to see more from her as a character. I need to see her going through more. Like, her backstory was excellent. They did such a great job on the backstory, but I didn't get enough in the present. I didn't know what she was thinking. And that's, to me, a cardinal sin of writing is I need to know what you're thinking. I need to know what you need to ultimately make a moral choice, right? Like, that's what we, in the book, Anatomy of a Story, they talk about this. What separates great films from good films from average films is the moral choice. In a great moral choice, the main character has to make a choice that's what it's either better for society or better for them, but you can't have both. And in this film did not have a good moral choice because we didn't learn about it. We didn't learn about it till it's too late. And it's like, again, cardinal sin of writing. And so I don't like to talk negative about films, and I'm not talking negative about this. I just thought it had so much potential, and I thought this could have been a time to kill. This could have been an excellent story that we would talk about for 20 years. And I think they missed the opportunity for that. So that's.
And let me build a little bit on that, and not to pile on, because again, it's like,
well, let's
there's
also,
an audience.
I do want to point out real briefly. There was a moment when I looked over at my brother to get some reactions, some live reaction from him, and he was not awake. So my brother may or may not have missed some character development.
Now, there wasn't. I believe me, I didn't miss a thing. There's an audience for this movie for sure, and I know 100%. That the source material it's the number one bestseller for ever. So I mean, there's a reason why this story was made into a movie, and like you said, the actress who is in this movie is incredible. But shocking to everybody, I don't read, but when I do go into a movie, I really do look at trailers, and the trailer of this movie really promised several things. It promised that there was going to be a pursuit of this woman because she's suspected of murder, and that there's trials, and the town doesn't know who, like, did she do it, did she not do it. There was this setup for going into this film, and this movie had about a minute of screen time of actual courtroom drama at all, maybe 2 minutes, and then other than that, it was all backstory. Like, flashbacks should be flashbacks, a flash, for me, anyways. Like, if I'm
I don't disagree with this.
If you flash back to something, but then you get back to the present and you continue moving forward with the story. And I just think that this film, at the end of the day, there was just so many missed opportunities. I mean,
that's the frustration.
It was frustrating.
It's frustrating because you
see the whole thing.
You see good source material, and you can see, like, again, like, sometimes this is what makes me angry. It's like, let us write this. Like, I think we could have crushed the script because, one, like you're saying, it is one of the worst written court dramas I've ever seen in my life on film. And again, I need to believe everybody's guilty. I need to know every option is plausible so that by the time the jury makes a decision, I don't know what they're going to really rule. in this film, it was one of the weakest cases I've ever, like, even in a real law, it's one of the worst presented. I don't even think it would go to court. It was that poor.
No, a DA would have thrown this
It was one
case
of the
out
worst
the door.
portrayed court cases I've ever seen in my life. And again, that's the frustrating part, because I do think as a screenwriter, we could have addressed those things and we could have made it great. And we could have added the intrigue that this film needed on that level, because like you're saying, Pete, we needed back and forth. Court case, boom, boom, boom. What about this? What about this? And you flash back, boom, 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 boom. You said boom, flashback. Like, again, this is courtroom dramas are a staple of American cinema. And
so Paul, are you saying that it's not so much where they pulled the source from the book, or you're saying that the screenplay was weak, their adaptation of the screenplay?
Yeah. So my friend said they stuck to the book. Like, it was actually a great book to film adaptation in terms of they're very, very true to the source material. But my whole point, my whole initial point is, you're solving for a different medium. I don't care. I'm okay losing those book fans in order to make a great film, because that's what I'm making. I'm not making a book. The book's already made. That's one source.
Yes.
And it's based off of the novel of blah blah blah. But
I wonder if it's the pacing then.
I actually
if the critique is just the pacing.
No, I thought the pacing was solid. I wasn't bored. I wasn't bored.
So bored.
Well, you were bored. I personally wasn't bored from it. Again,
you can't flash back for 30 minutes. You just can't do it.
Unless you're Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Even Christopher Nolan wouldn't have the balls to flash back for 30 minutes. Like, it just doesn't happen. Like, there was, like, even the, like, at the end of the day, when you get into the trial, or when you start getting towards the end of that film, you didn't ever have this question, like as you were saying, Paul, is it the girl? Is it the boyfriend? Was it somebody else?
Was it an accident?
Was it an accident? Like, they show where the murder happens and how it possibly could have happened, and whether it was
never
an
show
accident
it
or not at the very beginning, and then they never return to it ever. And it's just like they set up all these things at the beginning, but then they don't do anything with it at the end. And then at the end, they kind of move on with her life. She gets old with the original boyfriend. And then at the end, they do the big reveal. But at the end, you're just like, okay,
it's anticlimactic.
No shit.
Did you guys know the ending already? You already knew who the okay.
Yeah, but again,
I mean, you could have predicted it. Like, but if they would have,
that's what I'm saying. Was it obvious in the movie where you knew?
It was obvious to a point. If they would have made the ending different than the book, then it would have felt like somebody just wrote something at the last minute, and it wouldn't have worked.
No, it was the time, but it was the timing of the reveal was poor.
The reveal was at the very, very, very end.
Yeah, it was like an afterthought. Oh yeah, by the way, and it's like, whoa, wait, what? Like, and again, like, to Pete's point, you already kind of moved on from that point, because it didn't. Like, that part needs to. Again, you want great writing, man. You reveal that right before the decision. Oh my goodness! Like, dude, how much does that change the movie?
No, but even like A Time to Kill, your comp, which is phenomenal. You already knew that he was guilty throughout the whole trial, and yet you rooted for him because something really horrible was done to him.
Moral
and
choice.
You knew why he did what he did, and why he was accused of those crimes. Like, I would have done the same thing. Somebody rapes my daughter, of course I'm going to go kill that guy. Of course, I'm with him every step of the way. Somebody tried to rape this girl in Crawdads and tried to, like, do all these horrible things to her. Of course I would have sided with her, but they never presented it that way in the trial at all. There was no like, I'm with her the whole way.
Yeah. And again,
you know what I mean?
Timing, the timing of everything was poorly written for a film. Again, book.
I don't know what they were thinking.
I'm not arguing the book. I think the book is fine. I think the book is probably interesting because I'm putting it up, I'm putting it down. But when I watch it as a film, what you do when you adapt a screenplay, sometimes you combine scenes. When the murder happened and in the moment like the highest moment of friction, that needed to be combined, because it doesn't make psychological sense in a film to.
It was 45 minutes to an hour in between the murder and the reveal of what actually
No, but even in the
caused the
timeline,
murder to happen.
but Pete, even in the timeline, it's 4 or 5 days. So then it becomes less impulsive, and then now it's like, well, you actually thought about it. Like, yeah, you are, it's not like what makes great is these impulses, because then you can relate to it more, because like, yeah, I can see why she did something like this, or why he did something like this, because it was the heat of the moment, right? They took away the heat of the moment. Again, it's like literally this. I would literally write how not to write a screenplay from this screenplay, because they almost broke every rule and didn't do it the right way.
However, imagery wise, one of the more beautifully shot movies that I've ever seen. The main character, this girl, is phenomenal.
The story itself is solid. Like, this is
even really the lawyer who I've known for like so many past projects.
He was in LA Confidential.
Thank you. But he's such a sweet, kind-hearted person that he always portrays, and so you're with him. There's a reason why he took this case, because he believed in this girl's innocence. And so you go along with him and you trust him, but he's barely in it. Yeah. Like he could have been one of the main actors of this film. I'm upset all over again.
Dude.
have you guys seen that series Sharp Objects on HBO?
No.
With Amy Adams? Oh, okay.
Is it good?
Yeah, okay.
Nicole Kidman, right?
It's kind of it's Amy Adams and the guy
isn't Amy Adams, Reese Witherspoon, and Nicole Kidman, or am I thinking of the wrong series?
I think it's Amy Adams.
That's
and
Big Little Lies you're thinking of.
Oh, I'm thinking of Big Little Lies.
Yeah. But anyways, it's parallel. It runs parallels to what you guys are saying. So never mind. Another time. I'll think of another reference.
So good.
Listen, I do want to see that. At the end of the
day, if you love this book, it's always good to go and see a movie. I mean, even the diehard Lord of the Rings fans are not happy with the Lord of the Rings movies for a myriad of reasons. However, they are still great films, and it's really to each his own. So if you love this book as much as so many people in this country do, absolutely go and see it, because you might be able to extract some value out of it. I thought the relationship was good. I just personally, as a screenwriter and as a movie maker, I just don't really feel like I understood the direction that they went in to make this movie.
Here's what will not happen. A group of guys say, "Hey, dog, what up, man? Hey, you want to go see Moon Knight? Yeah. How about that Crawdads movie? Let's go see that one. All right, man. Yeah. You and me and 3 other guys, let's go watch Crawdads tonight." That's not going to happen. This is not a guy centric film. I do think women are going to enjoy this film regardless. So if you're a female, you've read the book. My friend that read the book and saw the film, she gave it a 7 out of 10. So, I do think there's value out of this film. I don't think it's a terrible film. Again, our frustration comes from, we think this could have been an excellent film.
Oh my God!
This could have been a 9. This could have been a 9 or a 10 within this genre, because I think there's so much of the story that's great. And
set it up.
It's set up so great, and it's just different. I one of the things I loved about the story itself is we get to learn about different cultures. It's there's also an element about kind of like chasing your passion, and then in survival. Like, there's so many good side themes to this film that still make this film very enjoyable. And again, I'd recommend it if you're into romantic dramas, because it's not a comedy. If you're into romantic dramas, I think
not really a romance either, but there's a couple of romantic elements for sure. But I mean,
it's 90% of the film. That's why they deviated for 30 minutes. They just focused on the romance. But anyways, I think again, females 18 to 45, I think, will enjoy this film. Males, you're probably gonna maybe need a couple beers to watch this if you're on a date.
Or a couple of espressos.
A couple of espressos.
Espressos.
You might need to take a break in the middle of the film, walk in, walk out, kind of get yourself going again. But like I said,
I got to go to the bathroom all of a sudden, and they're like, "Wow, for the third time?" No. I'm 3 times I got to go pee.
Make sure your theater has a bar if you want to go see the film. This you need a beer to watch this film. If you're a male, this is the male perspective. You're going to need a beer to watch this film. Female, I think females are going to enjoy this film more. So take that recommendation. It's definitely not a Siskel and Ebert recommendation. So, and then lastly, Pete, let's just get this one out of the way very quickly. So, Persuasion, which is a Jane Austen adapted novel. This is also a female skewed film. Again, this is not a hey Pete, what are you up to this weekend? You want to come over? Maybe watch some Persuasion?
No, I can't. I'm watching Persuasion. I can't do anything. I'm watching Persuasion.
No. I'm going to go see Crawdads. But this is also a female skewed audience. Look, I'm not a Jane Austen fan per se. I thought I will say I thought they were a little bit creative with how they presented the film, so it made it a little bit more interesting. I hate the ending of this one too. Maybe one of the worst fucking endings I've ever seen on a movie. I'm not going to spoil it here, but oh my goodness, I was actually upset. Like, you gotta be kidding me. And I'm not I didn't want to get into it because I think I'll just kind of full spoiler. But if you're in a Jane Austen,
did you see it or no?
What? No, I don't. Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Did you see Persuasion?
It's on Netflix.
No, I didn't. I know. I'm looking at all the information right now.
It just came out today.
Okay.
Look, I like Dakota Johnson. I think she is continuing to kind of rise in the ranks. She's a budding star. She's already a star. I think she's going to continue to rise. Like I said, I think she's pretty much entered the A-list level for especially young female actors. I mean, she's obviously got great pedigree, who her parents are. So she's becoming somebody like I'm going to watch her stuff, like whatever she's in. I do like watching her on screen in terms of like just her acting ability, and she has this lovely kind of presence on film. I didn't like the story at all, but I understand. Again, this is a novel, people like it. I had a conversation with my mom about it, and we had a little bit of an argument there, and I'm just like, she's like, but that's how the times were, blah blah blah. And I was like, kind of the same argument. Like, I don't care. This is a film that came out today. Rewrite the film and make it the best film you can make it. Don't stick so much to the source material.
Yeah.
Because it was
when
terrible.
was Romeo and Juliet written? But meanwhile, they come out with Leonardo DiCaprio and
that crushed it.
And they crushed. It's just all about how you tell the story. These kind of movies.
I love Baz Luhrmann, by the way. I'm excited for Elvis. Side note.
Have you not seen it?
I'm sorry?
Did you have an English accent?
Have you seen it? Yeah, all of a sudden I'm Ricky Gervais. Have you not seen Elvis at all?
I haven't seen it, but I know he directed Romeo and Juliet, that Leonardo DiCaprio one. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you haven't seen Elvis.
I haven't seen it at
all.
It's crazy.
You're mental.
So that's my Persuasion. Like I said, females, I think, will enjoy it. If you're a Jane Austen fan, I think this is your wheelhouse. Guys,
these sort of British films.
I can't
British skewed films they're a tough watch for me because I don't know, as much drama as there is.
The drama. No, I need to cut you off here.
Hold on. Let me finish my point. The drama is never really elevated. Like if somebody does something, like if somebody murders somebody, it's like, oh, how could you murder that person? Oh, well, he upset me royally, and then there's no elevation in tone or like intensity or suspense. Like everything is just so cut and dry. And maybe I'm generalizing a lot of these sort of old school period pieces, like these British sort of period piece movies. But man, I can't get through like 2 seconds of the only time I can watch a British person in a movie sometimes is like when they're like stereotyped as like the villain, whether it's Star Wars or like Bond.
And by the way, they're the best villains. They're the best villains.
They're the best villains. But I mean, it's always like even in Star Wars, it's like, oh, the rebels are here. Oh no, what should we do? It's like, I don't know. It's like come on, man. British
have
people.
you guys have you guys watched The Crown on Netflix? The Crown?
No.
Oh my God. That is a British series I 100% recommend. It is amazing. The drama, the pacing. It's slow at the first 3 episodes are slow, but once it's past that, it's just
3 episodes. I have to wait 3 episodes.
No.
I don't believe in that.
Say that 3 episodes are slow. You got to hit me right off the bat.
Breaking Bad had very slow episodes at the beginning. You have to admit, and then
it didn't almost.
And so did Mindhunter. Mindhunter is an amazing show. I was going to end after the.
Mindhunter's good. I liked Mindhunter.
Yeah,
I hadn't gotten through that though.
The first 3 episodes, I was like, this isn't going to work for me. But then I just kept on with it, and it was amazing. Yeah. So I can't anymore. I have to.
Don't keep it on.
I need to get through it.
Like Joe Dirt.
So audience, I need to preface this because you just saw Pete's impression of a British film. So imagine trying to watch Persuasion, and every fucking 5 seconds he is interrupting and having that debate. Like, hello, is that like he did that literally for a solid 30 minutes of the film? And like, Pete, shut the fuck up. I'm trying to watch this film. And he would keep interrupting, and then he'd get mad because we just watched Crawdads before that. And so he's already upset from watching.
I was in a bad mood. I'll be honest. I was in a bad place when you were watching this film, and I knew already without even starting it that I wasn't going to be a part of the review.
It's like I'm not watching
from the beginning.
This is all.
However, I wasn't going to let you enjoy your time watching Persuasion. That's all. I was going to stand there and what are you doing here? Nothing. Oh, good. It's just like the dialogue, the pacing.
No, the dialogue was
dialogue is just, it's mind numbing, and it makes me
I'm with you.
Mad.
Well, and that's why I think the ending for me infuriated me that much more, was because it's like they built this story off one kind of direction, and they go in this different direction. And again, you know what? Spoiler alert, guys. If you don't want to hear the fucking ending of Persuasion,
fast forward 2 minutes.
Fast forward, right? But Henry Golding is a very charming guy. I like him. He was in Last Christmas. I love that.
Thank you, sir.
I love that film. He's got great charisma with Emilia Clarke. And so I like him. He's a very charming guy. Crazy Rich Asians. He's great in that too.
Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love this guy as an actor. I think this guy is a beast. And he comes in and he's kind of crushing it. And it's like, and he's the new Boo, whatever you want to call it. And yeah. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, this makes sense. And he leaves this old guy, and the old guy, like Pete's, like literally Pete is not lying. That is the dialogue the other guy talks with. And it's like, this guy's so boring. Like, how would you even want to be with this guy? And Henry Golding's so charming, so excellent. And then the fucking ending, he goes back to the other guy. She goes back to the old guy. And it's like, what? Like, what is convincing about this guy? He didn't even win her over. Like, this guy wasn't. And I know this guy's a good actor, so I'm not ripping on his performance, but this is Jane Austen. Ultimately, I guess I'm critiquing here, but there was no like you've seen those great romance, comedies or dramas where like the man just goes all out and wins back the woman, and you're just like, wow, okay, like that's a good argument. The guy didn't even do that, and then she's like, oh, we're so in love now, and it's like, what? I was so shocked at the ending, and then again I became Pete and angry.
I was stunned by the ending.
Yeah, you're super stunned as you're asleep.
The ending absolutely floored me. Like, I was like, wow, I didn't see that I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah. All right. So, anyways,
again, like Crawdads, there's an audience for this movie.
There's an audience.
Not in our.
By the way, my mom is target audience on this one. She's going to watch Persuasion. She's probably going to love it. She loves the book. She's also 70, so take that for what it is.
Loved this film.
Okay, guys. With that, because of Where the Crawdads Sing is an adapted screenplay, we wanted to give a shout out to the best all-time adapted screenplays that won the Oscar. And so, Pete, if you start us off with our top 5 Oscar-winning adapted screenplays, and these are Oscar-winning guys, not nominated. And again, this is all time, so you're talking 1928, I think, is the first Oscar. So we're going way far back. A lot of great screenplays.
Yeah, this was tough for sure. This is tough. I mean, number 5 for me is like, you want to talk about having like 15 slashes for like your number 5. It would be this / this.
No slashes. There's no slashes for this.
There's no slashes for this. You know what I'm going to do?
Wait. Honorable mentions we'll talk about after.
Of course.
Of course. Give me your top 5. So number 5.
My number 5 is a movie that I've mentioned before on this podcast, and nobody had a good reaction to it, but I just absolutely love this film, and it's The Pianist. The Pianist is one of my favorite movies.
All time number 5? Are you kidding me?
Number 5.
Again, by the way, I love The Pianist. I think it's a great film.
You love The Pianist? What?
Yeah, make that a short clip.
Wow. You'd put that on social.
Yeah.
Number 5 for me is The Pianist. I think that the music itself and the setting, I mean, you could put anything World War II and I'll watch it, and chances are I'm going to adore it. I just thought Adrian Brody was incredible.
He won Best Actor, right? I mean, it's an incredible film.
It's a great film. I understand by putting this at number 5. I understand the movies that I left off the list. Like, I get it, but you know, this is my list.
Yeah, this is personal.
My list, man. Number 4 for me is a movie that sort of changed everything and made me understand what horror was, and that's The Exorcist. This is the movie that kind of
can't argue that one. That's a good one.
It screwed me up. I still watch it today, but I watch it during the daytime. But it is one of those movies that just really kind of messed me up. Number 3 for me is The Silence of the Lambs. The Hannibal series for me is a big deal. I love it. I understand some of the latter movies aren't as strong. I know that the Julianne Moore one isn't as strong as the other ones, but I think in terms of the totality of the IP, it's really great. But The Silence of the Lambs, when that came out, was incredible. And
for sure.
Yeah. And then number 2 for me is a movie that was like there's movies that kind of show slavery and it kind of impacts you, but none really kind of impacted me the way that this one did, and that's 12 Years a Slave. Yeah. That movie just kind of like really made me.
I don't want to watch that movie again. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah.
I'm half white, half Mexican, but it really made me hate the white half of me when I saw this movie. I mean, the way they portrayed slavery and the brutality and the suffering and the horror was. I mean, it was a phenomenal film, and I think it's
script. Ultimately, we're talking about scripts. It's a phenomenal script.
Phenomenal script.
Yeah.
And number 1 is no brainer, Godfather.
Yeah.
Best movie ever.
Okay, Pete. A very, very interesting list. I definitely think you skewed more recent films versus some historical films, but I think that's not uncommon. So Nelissa, it's a solid list. You're not going to win, but it's a solid list. But Nelissa, we'll see what you have here. Give us your top 5 Oscar-winning adapted screenplays.
Okay, all right, here we go. Number 5 is All About Eve. 4 is Casablanca.
Nice.
3 is The Social Network. 4 is Silence of the Lambs, and like Pete, my number 1 is 2 is Silence of the Lambs, and number 1 is The Godfather. Yeah.
I liked your list more. You definitely have more eclectic selections there, because what my brother.
A snob.
Well, no, but my brother failed to show any sort of diversity.
12 Years a Slave. Huh. Whatever.
No, I think you encapsulated what I like about your list is you encapsulated many different time periods, because, that's also, when you're dealing with, again, such a large time period. I mean, we're talking 90 years essentially. You're choosing 90 years of films, and that's 90 films essentially. We're deciding.
I love your list.
Yeah, I think your list is very
Thank
good.
you. I love your list.
I've seen all those films.
Thank you.
I've seen all those
There's no
films.
right list here.
And by the way,
Sorry.
for our audience, if you've not seen like All About Eve, it's a great older film. Like some of these films don't like really pan out or like carry, but this is a film that I think is still entertaining to this day, and has good back and forth between I forget who's stars in that. Is that
right, there's some movies that still have legs.
Is that
like
Katharine Hepburn? Is that
Katharine
Hepburn and Spencer Tracy, or is that Gregory Peck? Who's in that room?
I don't know. We'll edit it up.
It is.
I'll edit this. Yeah.
It's Betty Davis,
Gregory
Ann
Peck.
Baxter, George
Okay.
Sanders.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I'm thinking of
Betty
Philadelphia.
Davis.
I think I was thinking of a Philadelphia Story.
And George Sanders was a colonel, actually.
You're stupid. Yeah, that's definitely not. That's not gonna make it fun. Okay.
Thank you. I mean, a couple
All right.
seconds later, they get a laugh.
Yeah.
Then somebody's like, okay, now I get it.
I'll cut in All About Eve.
Yes, please.
Yeah, All About Eve, a solid film that stars Betty Davis, and that's one of her iconic roles, which made her one of the stars back in the day. But Joseph Mankiewicz directed that, and he's one of the best directors in that era. And again, if you kind of got a backbone for older films, this is definitely one on the list. I definitely watched it in film school, and I would not say I'm one of those people that love all these old ones just because people tell me to love it. Like this one was actually pretty enjoyable to watch. Like, and I would not classify this as a film in my genre world, but it was entertaining. I thought it was for a film in that era. I thought it was really entertaining and really worked. You can see why these were stars. And again, both Mankiewicz and Betty Davis were legends in that day. So very, very good list. So I think I have a nice.
And by the way, the Social Network is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, that was a
Aaron
great
Sorkin.
film.
I mean, Aaron Sorkin is literally the best.
Aaron Sorkin.
It was really tough for me not to put that on my list, but I mean, there's so many great films. Like, damn,
I need to watch that again.
List.
I need to watch that again. But yeah, the Social Network, and that was a tough story from what I heard too.
I always get mad when people get better lists than me.
Yeah. Aaron Sorkin, what he did on that film in terms of like converting that story into a screenplay, I mean, it's genius. And this is why he's a living legend. One of the best.
Curious about your list, dude.
Yeah, well, look, I try to balance iconic films with, again, also like multiple eras. And also like, again, I've read many a writing book. And so I also like, what do other books talk about? Like when they talk about structure and talk about this, because again, this is screenplays, this is not movies, right? So I wanted to really kind of hone in on screenplays. So my number 5, and this is incredible that it's number 5, but this is Forrest Gump. In Forrest Gump, you want to talk about one of the screenplays that is not supposed to work out, and it's so much all over the place, but they did such a great job of honing in this multi-decade story and making it work, adding Tom Hanks, obviously, genius, Robert Zemeckis. And it's just an amazing screenplay because this is a film that has disaster written all over it, and it worked. And
that was the one that was really the most difficult for me to keep off. Shame on me.
Yeah, again, it's one of the best films.
My last podcast. I'm sorry, I ruined everything.
I'm replacing my brother both in real life and on this podcast.
Goodbye, everybody.
Real life.
So my number 4. This is one of the first films when I felt like I was starting to become real educated on scripts and things of this nature. And I just thought this was such a great script that just kind of kept me guessing and was so interesting and just moved from scene to scene to scene. And it's built so well. And it's LA Confidential. And this movie came out in 1998. It was one of my favorite films. You know, it went against Titanic that year, and Titanic was like the favorite, but LA Confidential, I actually had like a screener video of this. So I saw this both in the theater and then like the screener copy. And I watched it like multiple times. And I'm just like, wow, this is such a great written script. And it's so tight. And then everything kind of pans out and connects. Just an incredible script. So LA Confidential, and it's still one of my favorite films of all time. My number 3 is maybe I guess you have to call it a Western. But it's probably one of the greatest Westerns of all time, if you want to classify it as Western, but it's definitely a historical drama. But it's Dance with the Wolves, and it crushed, obviously, Oscar season.
Wolves. There's an L. Wolves.
That's what I said. Dances with Wolves. Wolves. Dances with Wolves.
Dances with Wolves.
But Dance with Wolves is one of my favorite films. I've watched almost every certain version of it, whether it's the 17-hour version or the 4-hour version. I've always connected with this film. I loved Kevin Costner and everything that went into this production. Tatanka, everybody that knows me, sometimes if I've had too much to drink, Tatanka might be the only word I'll say.
Talks about Tatanka.
But I absolutely love this film, and it's probably my favorite out of all the films on this list. It's probably my favorite. But I had to give a nod. My number 1 and 2, these are just they're just better than Dance with the Wolves in terms of iconness, which is not a word. But my number 2 is Casablanca. And when you talk about a script, this is one they teach about all the time. A lot of what I still read, it's in, it's out. I've watched it several times now, and it's just such a clean film. And the character development in this film is so great. And they point out certain scenes on how Bogart changes from one scene to another, and how like the process that his character goes through, and it's just such a well-written film, and there's no doubt why this was one of the best films of the first 50 years of cinema. I mean, it's one of the few films that hold up. And by the way, Pete, we have it. You can watch it.
Yeah.
We have it on our Apple account. But it's Casablanca is a living legend.
Frankly, Paul, I don't give a damn.
Yeah, exactly. It's that quote is like a top 10 quote, I think.
Please, it's iconic.
Yeah, it's iconic, and it changed cinema. It was just such a well-written. It's a World War II film. So, guys, if you haven't seen an old film and you want to watch one, you're like, I don't know. Casablanca is maybe one of the best old films, like pre-1960, that you'll ever see.
If you want to see a new film, Paws of Fury just came out. On
exactly.
It's
very Casablanca-esque. And then number 1, like you guys mentioned, The Godfather, and
amazing.
And what I want to point out, undeniable. And what I also want to point out too, is we talked about adapted screenplays, and we had this conversation earlier with Crawdads. We had this conversation with even Persuasion, but you have a source material and then you build on top of that and you make a great film. Godfather, especially if you watch The Offer, and guys, if you haven't read The Offer, also you can read the book about the making of The Godfather. Take the gun, leave the cannoli. Is that I say it right, Peter? No.
Take the gun.
Leave the cannoli.
No. Leave the gun. Take the cannoli, because they want to leave with the cannolis. He doesn't want to leave the cannolis. He wants the cannolis, but you leave the gun because you just shot somebody.
Yeah, you're right. Leave the gun, take the cannoli.
Make sure to bring those cannolis, because them shits are good.
Yeah. So when you, and again, like it's really exacerbated in The Offer about what Francis Ford Coppola and even Mario Puzo, to an extent, what they went through, because
and already as a producer.
Yeah, but they really went through the screenplay and said, what about this? We want to focus on this. We want to focus on this. But they focused so much on making a great film. And this is where Francis Ford Coppola became a legend, really, is he had such a great idea for the film, but he was so focused on the film, it didn't distract from the source material. And he wasn't trying to make the source material. He was trying to make the best film ever. And he did, arguably. Yeah. And so that's the part, again, when we're talking about adaptations, it's so important as a writer, as a producer, as a director, you got to focus on what's in front of you and make the film, not don't worry about the other medium, because the other medium doesn't translate wholly. Gone Girl is maybe like the rare exception where it's almost like, wow, but I already know the author wrote that knowing that she wanted to make that into a film. Like, she wrote that book. I think she got paid literally to write the book, knowing it was going to get made to a film. So she already had kind of like screenwriting tendencies in that. But very rare does a book translate so well.
I mean, it's like Stephen King, when he writes a book, like when he wrote It, which is like this big, you know what I mean? Like if you made a movie page for page, like the level of detail.
I read it.
Stephen King is a phenomenal. I've read it too. That's actually one of the only books I've ever read. It's so detailed that you actually are immersed in this world. You actually feel like you're in a part of this world. And so that's why it's so impactful in a book. But if you take all of that detail, that's why I'm going to agree with you. I mean, the author really kind of puts, it really shines a spotlight on what it means to take in a source material and say, okay, but here's how it's going to play out on camera.
Yeah.
This is how the audience is going to be able to accept this and react to it and have it be a positive experience. I mean, to take a book like The Godfather and turn it into like one of the greatest movies of all time, The Godfather. What a feat.
I'm reading the book now because obviously we're going to be doing the Godfather podcast soon, but I'm reading the book now just so I have all that information, because
Incredible.
I know it's going to be different. And another book that I read, and then the movie version, is American Sniper. And to your point, like, that's what's so great about the book is it goes into certain details, but you don't want that on screen. They talk about the rifle that he loved, and it's like a whole chapter about, this is the rifle I love. Let me tell you why I love this rifle.
It's a formula to filmmaking that is successful. I mean, there's a reason why there's beats. And
you read the book compared to the film, again, great adaptation, because the film works. And obviously it won, I think that won Best Picture, didn't it? Or at least nominated. But if you would have made the book page for page, it would have been a terrible film, because there's actually no story in American Sniper. Like, if you read the book and you think there's like a very great narrative, it doesn't work. But they did a great job.
Wait, let me say something there. I feel like the only example I can think of that combats that is like, if you ever watch the Harry Potter movies, right? I think the strongest one is the third one. It's directed by Azkaban, and it's directed by this South American, I forgot his name, but he really stayed with the book, and it was strong. It was stronger than the other ones. Personally, I don't know if anyone else has this opinion.
Well, you're not wrong. So to me, it's a case by case basis. So there's not a rule book of you have to take the source material and translate it 100%. Like I said, Gone Girl worked. Gone Girl is almost page for page on the screen, and it worked. And it's a great adaptation, but they didn't do much. But I haven't seen the Harry Potters, but okay, Pete, go ahead.
Oh, you haven't? Okay. Reference.
Yeah, Mr.
Sorry,
Cotter. No, like I think the reason why, and you're right, I think the reason why Azkaban worked so well at that time, because there was already two amazing films that had been done prior to, so it almost gave them that sort of freedom to be able to tell a story in that way. If they would have if they may have came out with that first one and it was so close to the book, and would people have reacted so positively towards it? I don't know. It's a question.
Well, I've read the book. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I've read the book. But I can tell you can't adapt that straight up. There's too many.
Right. There's too many details.
No, I haven't seen any Harry Potter movie.
What?
Yeah, it's on my list.
Oh my God, they're like the best movies
crazy.
ever.
That's crazy.
But I've never met anyone. Yeah, right. What I'm doing now is I'm reading the book, and then I'm going to watch the movie. So I've already read the first.
Paul actually doesn't exist. He's like a.
Yeah, I just lost the.
He's not even real.
I'm also getting replaced as host for that. But no, I've read the Harry Potter book. But to your point, that could not be played page for page. Like, there's too many stuff that just doesn't matter. Like all the books and all that stuff, like, oh, the details, like, oh, this is my luggage. Like, it would veer very far off between being an entertaining film. So
Nelissa, you're the new
I guess.
host of the show moving forward.
Here we go. Personality on display.
Let me know when the next podcast is going to be, and I'll get prepared. Okay, please.
yeah, awesome, guys. Well, that's going to wrap it up for our podcast today. Again, thank you, Nelissa, for coming on our podcast. We hope to have you again, and
So
make
good to
sure
meet you.
make sure to go check out Paws of Fury, which is out now. Again, support my brother. But again, we both like the film. We think it's a good animation film, a solid hitter. Your family will like it. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you guys like and subscribe our podcast. We're now live on Apple Podcasts. We're now live on Spotify and all your other favorite podcast networks. We're on all of them now. So make sure you check us out. If you want to listen to us, you want to watch us, you like seeing our pretty faces, then you get the best of both worlds here on YouTube.
We're everywhere.
Everywhere.
We're omnipresent, very much like God
That's right.
in a way.
Yeah, good job, Pete. We'll cut that out. Jeez.
We're very much like Jesus.
Jeez.
I love
Pete.
that.
This is why I'm the editor, because Pete just says things like,
What's
what?
wrong with saying we're omnipresent? We're everywhere.
You said we're like God. I can't put that in.